It's time to ignite your soul and unlock your full potential. Join us on Beneath the Helmet, the podcast exploring firefighters' health and wellness. Hosted by retired Fire Chief Arjuna George, our podcast is the perfect place to start your journey towards becoming the best version of yourself. So come on, let's join the conversation and find out what sets your soul on fire.
All right, everyone, welcome back to a very special edition of Beneath the Helmet. Today I get the pleasure and the honor to post an interview that was recorded a little bit ago because I've been waiting for the Canadian Association of Fire Chiefs annual conference, Fire Rescue Canada. It's being held right now in Eastern Canada. So these people are friends of mine. I got the extreme pleasure to introduce you to retired Fire Chief Tom DeSorcy, retired Fire Chief Gil MacIntyre, and ambassador, family friend, friend of the fire service, and many of you know her, Shelley Langille. These three individuals make up a small part of who Team Red is. So Team Red, this is their story about how it formed, how it became Team Red, and the principle behind it. It's all about connection and supporting each other through tough, challenging times, as well as good, amazing times. So I hope you enjoy this special episode with some of the members of Team Red from across Canada, sharing their experience, their story of how Team Red came to be and what it's meant to them over the time, as well as the power that it's brought to them as individuals. They also share how other people, including yourself right now, could start your own Team Red. So I hope you enjoy this episode with myself and the Team Red folks. Until next time, stay well. All right, welcome back. We got a very special podcast today. We actually have Team Red here, and there's only 3 of Team Red, but there's many more across Canada that are missing today, unfortunately. But we got Gilbert MacIntyre, Tom DeSorcy, and Shelley Langille. So, Team Red. I think a few people across Canada have heard of what Team Red is. There's been, I think it was 2022 at the Canadian Fire Chiefs. Is that correct? 2022?
Yep.
Yeah, 2022 was your presentation across the fire community. So, I'd like to start off with give our audience, our listeners, a little background of what Team Red is and how it originated, where it came from, and where it is today. So maybe, Tom, do you want to start us off?
For sure. And Team Red is sort of, by accident, sort of on purpose. But when it was realized it should be a purpose, I think was when it came into vogue for us. It was, I think 2016, I think is the date. We, the bunch of us, so this whole group was part of the conference circuit, if you will, doing our provincial conferences, going to the Canadian Fire Chiefs Conference, for example. That year, it was in St. John's, Newfoundland. And part of the conference every year is a theme night, fun night. And we were all going to this fun night. It was actually a pub crawl is what it was, and in St. John's on George Street. And we didn't know how it was going to work. We didn't know what the parameters were. We were just told to meet as a group in one location. And we showed up at the conference center. And as we walked in the room, they were handing out bandanas. And they were red and yellow and blue and green. And we were just, here's a bandana, take one and walk in the room. And so I immediately realized that there was a bit of a team thing here, that if you were given a certain color, that was going to be your group. And so I looked, and the group that below me here and part of this group were waving, we're red, grab red, because you always have a group of people you hang out with at conference and you get together with. And so they were waving red. Okay, I've got to make sure I got a red. When Vince came in, he had a wrong color. Red, go back and get a red one. Go back and get. We had no idea what was going on. We just knew we all needed to be the same. So we got our group colors, and then off we went. And sure enough, as groups, we were all sent to different establishments, and you were there for half an hour, and they would come and play an instrument and drag you out to the next one. And so this rotation happened in 4 different locations, and we got to one group location at the very end. And it was just a big event, and we were chanting Team Red all the way around, and I got this thing going. And so that was where we left it. Now, the background I have is the actual bandana that we were given as this group that put this event together, the rally in the alley. And so we maintained this. I ran into Shelley, when was it? The year later, I think it was, in a ferry lineup, believe it or not, in Vancouver Island. and said, "Hey, how are you? What are you?" Just chatting away, and realized I made the comment that we need to keep this red thing going. Because you had mentioned, Shelley, you were going on vacation. And I said, "Here's an idea. Take this bandana, get a photograph of it in vacation photos around the world. Let's just have it in the background, have it somewhere, and just take this bandana around the world and tell everyone that had one." And there were more bandanas, there were more Team Red members out there. But then as things started to get together and go along, and then 2020 happened. In a nutshell, it was, hey, we miss getting together. We were last together. We're in Calgary was our last gathering.
Yep.
Would have been Calgary at the CAFC. And it was, wow, we really need to join forces and something. Let's get together and celebrate, for example, New Year's Eve across Canada and raise a glass at 7:30 Pacific time, which is Newfoundland midnight. And there's our buddy Vince online in the group. And before you know it, this started into a once a week Zoom call for more than 2 years now. We've been doing this with this group, for the 7 or 8 of us at a time that get together. And little did we know at the time that we pretty much had a homegrown peer support group that was formed. And that's the essence. And that's where we are today with what we call, there it is, Team Red,
Team
right?
Red, yeah.
Right there.
Other side.
Other stuff. Team Red. So that's where it all began. And so organic, homegrown. But when you start to realize that we're all connected through the fire service, we've got chiefs, we've got retired chiefs, we've got working chiefs, we've got coaches, we've got people involved. And I say people, there's 6 or 7 of us now, 8 of us is our group. And we did the live presentation with the bulk of the group in Halifax last year. And also did a presentation in Ottawa at the Canadian Association of Fire Chiefs, and to very well received. And we'll talk about that, I'm sure. But that's the birth of it all, if you will. That's where it began.
Love it. What do you think it is that created such a vibe around this Team Red? Is it just the camaraderie, or what is it that made this just take off from all it was a bar event at a conference? Anybody have any thoughts there?
I would say it really was all about connections. And in it, you find the people that you're drawn to during conferences, and which we did. And for me, when 2020 hit and we all recognized that we would no longer see each other regularly, 2, 3, 4 times a year, that was really devastating. And it's like, we have to stay in touch and we have to keep this going, because it is magic. It's a bit of magic that we found on the road. And the COVID was a gift that gave us more time together than we had before. And we got to know each other and just supporting each other through the good, the bad, and the ugly. And seeing the chiefs, I was the vendor side of the group, but seeing the chiefs and supporting each other and learning from each other and sharing best practices through everything that was going on. Remarkable.
Beautiful. Gilbert, if you had to summarize what Team Red was to you, what's it mean to you?
It's an excuse to have a glass of wine on a Sunday night.
Yes. Indeed.
You know what? I think both Tom and Shell summed it up beautifully. We fell into it. And then COVID pushed us along a little further. And what always is ringing in my ears, Vince saying somewhere along the line, I don't know where we were, week 4, 5, 8, or 9 or whatever. And Vince saying, I'm going to be really interested to see how long this goes, because we're coming to see, how are we getting through COVID? How are you handling it there? How are we handling it? And how long is this going to go? And like Tom said, here we are well over 2 years later, and it's become more than laughingly saying having a glass of wine on Sunday night. Each one of us have had something. For myself, I had a diagnosis of cancer that I really didn't want to make public. Not that it was my story and I wanted to handle it my way. And I just really didn't want that out there yet. But when we met with Team Red, and it seems to me I had a ridiculous Christmas outfit on when we did it, because it was Christmas get together, and I had a stupid Christmas blazer on. But I was signing off, and I just said, look, I haven't told anyone. No one, because we're all connected to other people. I said, nobody else knows, but I want you guys to know that I've been diagnosed with cancer, right? And it was a way for me to come to grips with telling people. And what's really safe about this group is that I can say something to anyone in this group. I'm not going to bump into them at the grocery store the next day. It's just cool that way, that you really get to just have a laugh or bare your soul. And it's not going to smack you in the face when you go downtown the next day.
Yeah, that's a key point, I think, to create that safety container that you're operating in. What else from anyone? What else provided that safety for you to be open and, share what was your challenges and what was going through your life? What made it a safe container?
I think the key part further to the you won't bump into each other is that the same thing you have in, peer support counseling. It's not on purpose, right? It is not, hi, we're going to sit down and have a counseling session. That was not the intent, but it happened. And so it's a lot easier. It's a lot, the transition into a discussion is easier. Plus, when you realize that you've got so much in common, that you know each other to a point that nobody understands a fire chief like another fire chief. And so having that with the input of the other people like Shelley and Laura, who are not fire chiefs, but know fire chiefs and know the fire service and know us. And again, there's no pressure that, hi, we're here now to talk. What's bothering you? No, that's not the intent. The intent is to get together and have a conversation like this. And then, hey, by the way, I just want to let you know, and you don't realize what you have inside until you start to have a conversation. And that is pretty much in some of the career stations. This is the kitchen table, the dinner table conversation that we have on this electronic means, which is unique, I think, in terms of let's just get together and have a glass of wine, have a sociable that we needed to do and say, hey, we missed that. And then all of a sudden, hey, what's going on today? We had a bad fire last night. Oh, wow, tell me more. Hey, before you know, it's an hour later and you've had this conversation. You feel pretty good about it afterward.
That's a really good point too, because some of these calls have gone 2 and 3 hours.
Yeah.
We're a minimum 1 hour. There was the question about how long would this last? Here we are going on 3 years later, and we still have the majority of the folks showing up every Sunday.
Yeah,
and there's still lots to talk about. And AJ, you asked what creates this safe space. I can't help but think about Brené Brown's Braving acronym from Into the Wilderness or Braving the Wilderness. And honestly, this entire group shows up with such authenticity, such integrity, accountability, generosity. The vault is just a given. It's really quite remarkable. That's the foundation of who we are. And when you asked that question, it just made me click. Oh yeah, of course, because we're all basically following the Braving. Right?
I think really it changed. I think it changed. It was altered, if you will. At least I have to ask myself when we went live, when we went public with this at the conferences, and how did it change our Sunday nights? And it validated it to say that, because the reaction we got, especially in Halifax, was incredible. There wasn't a dry eye in the house at the end of the day, including us on stage. And you don't realize it until you get discussing this. Then, of course, in Ottawa, and we had a surprise mention in Lethbridge. Laura was at an event, and during a closing ceremonies of a conference there, Team Red was referred to. So it's out there. Again, not intentional in terms of, hey, we're out there selling ourselves. But at the end of the day, I think we said, yeah, how far is this going to go? Yeah, I think we might be at the precipice of something different here that is continuing for us in terms of sharing our story like we're doing right now. And then also having a discussion, because it is an interactive discussion that we brought to the stage and brought to a presentation. We've got a lot of different players involved, a lot of different skill sets in our team. And that's what we bring to the table, if you will, when we sit down with now a large group of people and just basically tell our story and ask some questions and interview the audience. And it changed from Halifax to Ottawa, I'll admit that, but it was a different length. But again, the room was receptive. It was amazing. And again, I think some of us were taken aback by that and go, wow, this is really taken off.
Yeah, strange. I thought Ottawa was much more impactful or whatever. But the thing is with the presentations, is I think what the audience sees out of us is that it's not a professional, it's not a glossy presentation. There's a lot of raw emotion that goes into the presentations. That's not something that we plan on. I know we were in Ottawa. Shelley or Laura or somebody, whoever said, okay, here's how we're going through a dry run or a meeting in the morning. And I looked down and I saw the word cancer. I knew then, damn, this is not going to be a good presentation. I'm going to get emotional. And there's no way you can fight it. No way. But I think when the people who come to the presentation see that, they see that this isn't people who have taken the courses or maybe have the university degree that are telling you how to feel. We're actually witnessing people feeling something.
That's what makes it so powerful.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I think Gilbert, you said it perfect. I think that's what makes it so special is it's authentic, it's raw, it's emotional, it's your true self. And I think a lot of the times our presentations, like you say, are scripted and could be a doctor talking about mental health who's never experienced a mental health challenge, right? So it's pretty powerful when it can come from somebody who's experiencing that journey. Kudos to you all.
It's really something and getting the audience involved, and again, evolving our presentation, as Gilbert further to that. You come and see us again, that you'll get the idea of the theme, but I think it's going to be different. And every time we present, and I know we'll do more of these, they'll be different. They'll be based on this is where it all began, because we're evolving. We're evolving every Sunday. And the same group of people, as we say, there's only 6 or 7, 8 of us that gather on a regular basis, but that's our team. That's our group. There were others that we run into that say, hey, I was on that team in the last event in St. John's, which we hand out bandanas. Guess what? We had red bandanas at our events, and everybody got one. And it wasn't like the original, mind you, but it was a team red bandana that we were able to hand out. And there's the one behind Gilbert there. And thanks to
Shelley has one.
Thanks to CN for providing those. We came across these bandanas at a conference from another sponsor and said, hey, could we have some? Yeah, absolutely. Here you go. And everybody, and that they show up. And so it's a little reminder that, you can get together as a group. And I think that's been our message. If there's any underlying theme, is that we're not trying to sign you up. We're not trying to say, hey, join this group and be part of the cult. That's not the idea. The idea is that you need to think, because we had the conversation and we asked ourselves the question, what happens if we don't have another conference and we don't see each other next year? Because we always got into, see you next year. What happens if you don't? Guess what? We didn't. And the ability for us to gather again, we're telling people to get their own team red. Make your connections, but think of the people that you would only see once a year in person, but make a commitment to stay in touch with them because of the fact that, as Gilbert said, you're not going to see them in the grocery store. They're going to be in another community, but they understand when you talk to people and you reach out, hey, see you next year. How about see you sometime when you need to have a chat or what have you? That's exactly what now BC has picked it up with the BC Fire Chiefs doing a peer support, a team. And that's the same thing. It's the same idea. We're just not clinical. We're just homegrown people having a chat with the same things in common. That's it.
So what would it take for others to build something like Team Red? Any tips, any thoughts besides what you just said there about finding people that you only see once a year and friending them and joining them? Any other tips or strategies that you might want to share?
It really is just about connection and finding those people and making the commitment to take time, because this is self-care. This is the epitome of self-care. This is the foundation of mind health, connection. We're humans. We need connections. We need people that are going to have us feel seen, heard, understood, and supported. And that's it. It's taking a commitment to give yourself the gift of conversation and help when you need it.
I think everybody has their team. If you do conferences at all, you have your team. When you go to a conference, you connect with certain people. In fact, going all the way back to Learn Not to Burn. And when I was the Learn Not to Burn champion, then I was a mentor the next year and I went down to Oklahoma. You would meet the same people all the time, right? You would gravitate, you'd go golf together, you'd go here together, you'd go wherever. So I think people who do conferences, they have their team now. But it's like we were saying earlier, you're only seeing that person once or twice a year. Whereas all you have to do with what COVID gave us is familiarity with this Zoom, this medium. So now everybody knows how to do this. Just go online and say, listen, okay, the conference is till August 34th. How about 6 weeks later, we'll go online and we'll chat and see what happened. And that's really what we did. And it just, now we're doing it every week. And it's about, you don't have to be there. If you got something going on, it's not like we're sitting here like we are now. I'm usually here and Shelley's usually there, but Tom's usually barbecuing. Tom's usually barbecuing. Because
he's mobile.
He's getting ready for supper. And Vince can be wherever, as long as he's close to his bike. Everybody is every different. It's not a formal thing. And I think anybody who is out there in this industry already has their team. It's just a matter of setting it up like this.
Well, yeah, that's beautiful.
I think you sometimes take it for granted too. I mean, at the end of the day, I think we were guilty of just going to a conference, seeing people, not realizing what the conference social connection did for us. And I think that realization, again, not on purpose, but you don't know what you got till it's gone. And you realize that getting together with a group of people and saying, hey, how are you? Good to see you. You're not intended to do anything for your mental wellness, but you really are. And it's not intentional, but it's happening. And so until it's gone, then you go, wow, I really missed that. And I think the other part of it too, and I will add to what Gilbert said in terms of it just happens with your team. This group of us is even more unique in the fact that we're kind of on call. Yeah, there's a Sunday date, but it's not uncommon for the phone to ring or the thing to buzz and say, hey, we got a messenger call of some kind of group of us, and it's bang, 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 bang. Everybody, the 7 of us, 8 of us, queue up. They're online. And it's like, what's going on? What's going on? And it could be standing on the side of the riverbank, in my case, where I've got the rivers rising and just checking in and saying, hey, you saw this in the news. This is what we got going on here. And it's that there's a hurricane happening right now, hitting us in Cape Breton, right? And Gilbert had that and telling us where you at, what's going on, what do you got, kind of thing. We're not in a position to come and help you, but maybe through this little conversation, we might do something.
During COVID, you couldn't buy, borrow, or steal a thermometer in Cape Breton. And one of our members, JT, he got a hold of me and said, listen, what are you doing for thermometers? Like, how are you using them in the station? I said, I can't get them. I can't buy them. They're sold out everywhere. Don't worry about it. Boom. He sends it to me in the mail. Thermometers and something else. Sent me a package. So, I mean, all of a sudden now I don't just have the resources that are in my small community. Now I have the resources across Canada.
Totally. They got your back.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too, because it gets so personal as well. We've had every human, family, personal celebration and loss and everything else, and been there to support each other through all of those life events. That has been incredibly, it just has been a really powerful thing for me with some things that I've gone through, and just knowing I have these folks that I can go to and tell my story, and they're going to get it. They're going to support me. And without condition. It's really quite remarkable.
Yeah. No judgment, right?
Yeah. No judgment.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd love to hear from each of you what one special gift that Team Red gave to you since the birth of Team Red. Special gift that's given you.
Safety.
Want to expand on that a little bit, or?
A safe place to talk. When we're together, or no, when we work, the people we work with, we have, those that are maybe above you in management or in the municipality and subordinates. But very rarely is there someone that's on the same keel as you that really you can talk to, and they will appreciate what you're saying and not judge you. And they're not playing some angle to make their life better. This place is a safe place. These people are all the same as I am. They have the same concerns I do. They have the same appreciations I do. And it's a safe place for me to come and say, you know what, this sucked today. And it's also a safe place to come and say, hey, like a newborn child or whatever. And flowers go back and forth. Jesus, if we could get money from the Florist Association. We send that many flowers.
Yes.
We wear the shirts, but it's not like that's a uniform. That was really something that is just That's just something we thought was cool amongst us. Us nerdy little people thought this was going to be cool if we had this little thing. And this is what this group is for me. It's safe.
Beautiful. Yeah,
I-
that's
I'll-
amazing.
I'll say family.
Yeah.
Family.
Family.
Nice.
That's our word. I have a lot of chosen family. This group of chosen family is just on another level of connection. And they just turned into dear friends, dear family that I know are there whenever I need them for, again, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, because I know you also have a little Facebook group as well, right? Where you text back and forth. So it's not just Sundays. It could be all hours of the day, every day. So
That's right.
It is.
Sometimes you can be offline for a few hours and you go back. It's holy smokes. You need to scroll a long way to catch up with the conversation that's going on.
I'm thinking family. I like that word, family, and safety. Those are two key things to make it a healthy environment for us to work in. How about you, Tom?
It's the same. At the end of the day, it's different than a network. A network is great to have, but a network is all business. And this is a network because of the business. And it's certainly, it's that look forward to element, if you will, to see a group of people. And again, I think that's the technology allowed us to do that. The geek side of us said, hey, we can do this, we can do that. And the ability to do it live anywhere that we may be in the world. It doesn't necessarily mean we're trying to check in when we're on vacation, for goodness sake. Yeah, and hey, where are you at now? On the beach in Maui, and it's wow, okay. But again, it's that unrealized that you need this and that you want this, and how this applies, because it's not the same every week. And as we've transitioned, there's a lot of water that's flown under the bridge in the last 2 years for all of us. And there's changes and there's transitions and there's going from employment to unemployment. And in some of us, in my case, transitioning into retirement, and Gilbert transitioned into retirement, and it's starting to drip. We've got Rick Arnell in Ontario. He's transitioning at some point. He'll be at that point. And Kevin in Ontario, he's going to transition at some point. We're all getting up in age, and we'll leave Vince working forever, we think. And we talk about Vince why he's not here. We can talk about him because he's not here. But yeah, and which is why he's not here now, because he's working in Newfoundland. And so at the end of the day, it's sharing experiences. It's not just, well, what happened today? Well, the same old thing. I went to work. Hey, things have changed. And every week there's something different and there's something new to talk about, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. We're going to have a conversation, and it might be getting around again to that December 31st when we all go, bing, it's now time to have a conversation and start the ball rolling across Canada as the Team Red wave, if you will, moves along every hour or half hour as it was at the beginning. But it's that whole connection of the network that is really not an intentional, this is serious network discussions. It's a network that you didn't know you had.
Yeah, it can't be serious. It can be fun. It can be whatever. You can make it whatever you want it to be.
Exactly.
New Year's Eve is fun. New Year's Eve is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yes.
we have, but I think we started, it was Christmas time. I was doing a Christmas trivia contest. I had produced some intros and had sound effects and all kinds of stuff.
You remember when we first started, because we were just, how are we going to do this? Let's just go on. It was okay for the first week. How you doing, COVID? Okay, we're going to do this next week. Yeah. We got homework. Yeah. We got homework. Laura sent us out questions and you had to know the answers. And it was a nice way of getting the conversation rolling for a period of time. And really what I find here is that my friends in my life, and I suppose maybe in most people's lives, are associates that you bump up to repeatedly over the days. And they're friends because you were always together. These are friends because I chose them to be friends. I didn't have to be here. Never going to see them again if I stop coming here Sunday night. These are friends I chose to be friends. They're not my friends because they're in my family. They're in my family because they're friends.
Yeah.
Well put.
Yeah.
Well put.
Yeah.
You ever see Team Red going on the road on vacation together or anything like that? Is there been talks about
Send us the tickets.
outside of conference world?
There was actually a time when we were talking about a river cruise.
We had that when the first openings where we were going to try and book tickets, but see, that was the need. I think there was this need that okay, things are starting to lighten up, loosen up, letting people get out and join. We got to find a way to get together. And I think that opportunity to go to back east to a conference was a reason to get together. We went out early, a bunch of us, and got together, and it became this little traveling gang, this little road show, if you will, that said, this is an opportunity not only to meet at a conference, but we're going to go out back east early, come from all the way from BC in our case, and Shelley and I's case, and we're going to come from different areas and just be there and see some sights. And yeah, this, you're right. This is kind of, yeah, it could be a weekly gathering is now, wow, let's get together and do this. I can only imagine the next invite we get to a conference, where it's going to be. And okay, how are we going to work around that and say, okay, I'm going to go out with us, meet on the way kind of thing. Oh yeah, it's business when we're on the air, but it's something, there's a good side of this that says you need to take some time.
I've been an honorary member of Team Red for a few years now. I'm very proud to be associated with you guys and know you all. Many of you I knew beforehand, but it's been quite the honor to just get to know you a little bit deeper and to see this birth come from a little hoedown at George Street to what it is today. So it's pretty special. The reason I did this podcast actually was because at a recent Canadian Fire Chiefs meeting on leadership development, one of the individuals put up their hand and said, we'd love to have Team Red part of, maybe adapt Team Red's methodology or what their concept is and build it into the leadership development. And I was like, wow, that deserves a podcast episode to share that message with everyone. So that's what sparked today's show.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And this is just the prelim. And thanks for doing this, AJ, because as you pre-plug, I host a podcast as well. And so I think a Team Red podcast is going to be forthcoming at some point. So it's nice to have you kick this off and get us together and do this. I think this is just another extension of the message. Again, not intentional, not out there, hey, we're going to go sell this. But so you realize that, wow, this is a prime example of how we ended up to where we are today, in the fact that we are just having a conversation and going, we could do this again. We could have another conversation in another realm, be it another podcast, be it another leader group, whatever the case may be. I think it's pretty darn simple. That's the thing. It's pretty darn easy. And you don't know you have it until you lost it. And we're proof of that.
So what's next for Team Red?
A lot of times the conversations here too are debriefs for whatever's going on in the curling world.
And hockey.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's so fun, right? Because it's always so organic and there's so many wonderful tools at our disposal. We have a website. My web gal, Heather Kohler, another honorary Team Red member, made us a website. And it's just been so organic in how things have grown. We have our website, we have our presentations, we had handouts for the presentations, we had scarves for people, and people became honorary Team Red members. And it's just built and grown so beautifully. And what's next? I personally, as I'm no longer with the organization I was with that got me to the conferences, I want to see Team Red presentations all across the country, just so I can get together with these folks still. Now, we have retirees, so they're no longer attending conferences. We need excuses to get together. And if we have a way to write it off or have someone sponsor us, then that's a beautiful thing, because it just is a gift for us.
Is that website public, or is this kind of like an internal website for you? Yeah.
No, it's
the website name?
Yeah. I think it's just Team Red, isn't it?
Team Red.
Nice.
That's a good URL.
Do that.
So, final words. I'll start with Gilbert. What would be something you want to leave the listeners with that around the concept of Team Red and what you've got from it, how you've grown as a chief, as a human? Want to share a last little nugget with somebody?
I was pretty good before I met these guys, so
nothing but downhill.
No, listen, I've been, like most of us, I've been to all the conferences and I started with, in the early 90s, before really it was anywhere with PTSD training. A friend of mine was at the cutting edge of that, and I got in on the ground floor, and I started really in 92. But I've all my life been involved in something that has to do with internal wellness. Like I'm a yoga instructor. I'm an 8-3 black belt. I'm a therapeutic touch I'm into Reiki. I do all that stuff. And I go to all these places that teach you how to take care of yourself. The one thing, if I could tell anybody out there going to a conference or anything, if you can set this up, everything else is just fluff. This is the real thing. Everything else is just fluff. This is talking to people who aren't in your immediate circle, but they're in the tighter circle, just not physically. It's a much tighter circle. It's just not in your physical world, right? And this is the best thing that you can have as far as mental health and internal wellness. This is it.
Right. Yeah, I think people might confuse that with when you have to have a close-knit group like Team Red. It's all people that you see every day or hang out with it all the time. And maybe the key secret is to have people that you don't hang out with all the time. Is that correct? Or is
Yeah.
that what makes it special? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even with myself and Laura not being chiefs, but Tom said having familiarity, but we can bring a different perspective that might get missed.
Totally. 100%.
If you don't think they're chiefs, you should see them when we're getting ready for a presentation.
They could be chiefs. No problem.
6 stripes.
Yes.
I'm still waiting for the stripes on my
Yeah.
sweater.
How about you, Tom? What's one nugget you want to share with our audience about Team Red and your experience?
I think it's we've covered most of it in terms of or at least in terms, I think I have in terms of the non-intent. For me personally, I'm transitioning into an retirement mode, which is I'm still involved in the fire service. I'm still involved in the BC Fire Conference, BC Chiefs, going to be involved even further with the peer support, being able to give back to the fire service. This is not necessarily intended for the fire service, but it comes from the fire service. And so that is the difference in terms of it's personal, it's our own well-being, as opposed to, again, hey, I'm there, maybe I'm there, I am there for these people in this chat right now. But at the end of the day, it's not my intention to be. I'm here for you, but you're also here for me. So it's a trade-off. And that is the key, is that I think for us to be even going to conferences that don't involve the fire service, I think there is networking that needs to happen outside of, say, the fire service, being other first responders, being other groups and organizations that deal in some emergency forms. And we've had the discussion before about emergency responders that are not police, fire, or ambulance, paramedics. At the end of the day, there are groups out there that I think we certainly would love to appeal to and have the conversation. So I think that's the nugget, is the fact that it's homegrown and organic, and it's an opportunity that you don't want to try. You don't want to try to do this and just say, hey, we're going to do this for a reason, but it just happens, and it happened for us, and it can happen for everyone else.
Yeah, I agree. It could totally transfer over to corporate even. There's so many different avenues, because really this is about wellness and connection. So corporate, responders, everyone could benefit from a group like this, right?
Absolutely.
How about you, Shelley?
Again, it's the connection and the self-care, especially in first responder sectors. And when I was at Royal Roads, I worked with the military, police, and fire for 17 years. And this is groups that help everybody else. And we so often don't help ourselves first. And we hear it, put your own mask on first. Take care of yourself first before you take care of others. But we don't necessarily do that, especially in these fields. And this is the nugget. The nugget is you are important, and you must take care of yourself in order to effectively take care of others. And it's about the human connection. That's what we're all about.
Love it. Yeah, you guys are the epitome of human connection, Team Red, for sure. I just want to thank you all. And I'm sure that Team Red, the ones who are not with us today, I'm sure they would love to be part of this, and maybe we'll do part 2 one day. But I want to thank you for sharing your nuggets, your personal stories, and your experience of how developing Team Red. And I hope our listeners can get something out of this and take it home and build that connection with other people across North America or the world, wherever that looks. So thank you all for your service in the fire world, and thank you for committing to sharing this message as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Stay well.
Thank you for tuning in to Beneath the Helmet. We hope that this podcast has provided you with valuable insights into the world of firefighters' health and wellness. Remember, caring for your physical, mental, and spiritual well-being is crucial to achieving optimal performance. Join us next time on Beneath the Helmet for more inspiring conversations. Until then, stay well.